Hi. Træna was one of the first settlements in Norway. Here, they lived in caves 9,000 years ago. Today, the island is home to some 500 people, making it one of the smallest and most remote municipalities in Norway. As everywhere else, urbanization makes small places in the outskirts very aware of the constant threat of depopulation, just like it was 100 years ago when Norwegians emigrated to nations overseas. Before I go into how we are working with creative collaborations between outsiders and locals to fight depopulation today, I'd like to share a story. It's a story of 100 years and 10,000 nautical miles, from Holmen in Træna to Honolulu in Hawaii. In 1898, Theodor Holmen, an 18-year-old man from Træna, left his home to begin a journey which took him to Hawaii. He emigrated, just like hundreds of thousands other Norwegians during this time period. 3 years later, his little sister Alma was born. She grew up and lived all her life in Træna. Despite the distance, the brother and sister managed to communicate with each other, from one side of the globe to the other. 3 years, as soon as Alma was old enough to start reading, Theodor wrote letters directly to her. 3 months later, they arrived in Træna. In this way, they slowly got to know each other, but they never met. In 1925, Alma received a package bigger than just a letter. Opening it, finding out it was a camera, a Kodamatic, a machine she'd never seen before. She had to write to the brother asking, "How is this supposed to work?" It took 3 months for the letter to reach him, another 3 months to get the reply. Then the camera became an important object in Alma's life, and also for the rest of the community. With an expressed wish from the brother of documenting his home island and sending the best pictures to him 10,000 nautical miles away, she committed to the task and captured the island and its people throughout the rest of the century. Theodor received pictures of better and better quality, but he never returned home. He died in America, leaving no other traces than the letters sent to Norway. And Alma, she never got the chance to visit him. She died in 1997, the same year as internet made its entrance. Today, we easily send messages and Snapchats to brothers and sisters all over the globe. It takes 3 seconds rather than 3 months to send, and it takes 3 seconds for it to disappear. But the letters and pictures that Alma and Theodor sent, they're still here. 100 years later, some 1,000 copies or negatives from Alma and 150 letters from Theodor have been kept. Their exchange of letters and pictures is a personal documentation of an entire century, capturing migration, economic growth, the Wall Street crash, the First World War and the Second one, portrayed by 2 siblings from 2 different island communities on the opposite side of the globe. How can we know all this now? How can I tell this story? Well, thanks to collaboration from a person coming from outside and some truly engaged local people. One day, photographer and archivist Maja Atterstig came to the island, finding out that this story was lying here, just waiting to be told. She saw the potential of the story and wanted to make it a national example, a time capsule from this period of history. And she initiated to take care of all the photos and letters before they were destroyed by time. But she also wanted to add new layers to the story, bringing it back to relevance today. For example, during the Second World War, there was a regulation in Norway forcing people to wear ID cards. Since Alma was the one with a camera on the island, she took pictures of everyone who lived in Træna at that time, also some 500 people. With this, we get an excellent view of all who lived there. But the photographer, Maja, wanted to add her layer to the story. What about taking new pictures of all people living in Træna today? With Alma's old camera, the same one that was sent from Honolulu, 1925, she is now capturing all people living in Træna. To see who we are now, but also set them aside and see who they were before us, and questioning who we want to become tomorrow. Because this story is not told just to be dreaming of the past. It's also for creating a tomorrow. What can we learn from persons coming from outside, seeing our history with their own perspectives, giving it as a gift to us? Sometimes you don't even know that your story is unique. And sometimes searching in history gives us new perspectives on things that we are dealing with today, such as migration, immigration, depopulation, creating sustainable societies. And depopulation is a constant theme along the coastline in northern Norway. And even if it is, we are actually experiencing the opposite once a year in Træna. The population is 10 times multiplied. How come? Well, thanks to collaboration between people coming from the outside and some truly engaged local people. One day, Erland Mogård Larsen came up with an idea. What about creating the most unexpected festival out here in the cave where the first settlers lived, with international musicians standing on the naked cliff, using the cave as a natural stage and get the audience spreading out in the slope? Some people at the island probably said, "No, that's a crazy idea. It's not possible." While others said, "That's a crazy idea. Is it possible? Let's try it." Today, Trænafestivalen is a success, bringing people together from far and near and setting the scene for some majestic days to remember. Not only for the celebrities that comes from outside, but also for the local ones who lives here and experience once a year that the everyday view turns into a big celebration of their home. Well, after success, it's easy to applaud the man behind the great idea. But I'd also like to applaud those who dared to say yes to this crazy idea. Daring to welcome creative minds from outside with your own local competence. It's what it's all about. Very easy to say, yet something quite difficult to do. It takes training. But when you succeed with these collaborations and creative combinations, something happens. Some people call it added value, others innovation, or just magic. Or as world-famous artist Manu Chao once put it, Træna, paradise only closer. I agree. But 13 years after the summer festival, it was time for another crazy vision. This one goes back to a letter that Theodore once wrote to his little sister Alma. Sitting in Honolulu, the 10th of January 1922, he was longing to experience something else than sunshine. "I wish I could be with you a day in real cold weather." He was longing for those days in Træna that makes the life at the island to what it is. The shitty weather, the storms, the roughness. Maybe it was not until he gained an outside perspective that he could really verbalize the charm of drittvær, shitty weather. From this, a new idea was born. What about create the most unexpected festival out here during the winter time, the peak season of hurricanes and storms, inviting people to come and experience how life here really is? As a tribute to Theodore's words and to everything that makes life at the Arctic Circle far out at sea hard yet fantastic, the winter festival, Træna Taken by Storm, was launched. With this festival or gathering, we want to discuss and celebrate the changes that are along the Norwegian coastline, and inviting other small communities and people who want to be a part of that discussion, creating our own future. And, well, celebrating these perspectives of collaborations with festivals every year is great. But working and using these values on an everyday basis is even better. Today, we are working with long-term development in Træna, one of the smallest municipalities in Norway, to see what we can become in the future. 9,000 years from then and 9,000 years to come. And setting up a structure like that, we need to look for new islanders. So our in-residency program is a part of that structure. Artists in residence, business in residence, and chefs in residence. Since 2015, more than 150 projects have applied to come to our little island and make creative contributions to and with the local community. They get free housing, and we get free creative minds to collaborate with. It's a win-win. It ends up with us, for example, a book, a new outdoor venue, food products, or a happening. Or as in this example, this summer, a group of young architects came to Træna with an idea of renovating the oldest boathouse we have. It was almost totally destroyed by every storm that had been. But they wanted to create a new meeting place by the sea, welcoming us out into the water and into the warm. In September, our public sauna was opened. And I can assure you, almost no islander thought that they needed a sauna. Now they do. The residency program is not just for coming, making quick fixes. But with our open call, we want people to actually come and try out the life at our islands. Living there, working there, being one of us. Instead of advertising about how good the life is, like other traditional municipalities do, we give people the possibility to pack the bag and try it out and judge it themselves. Our first artist in residence guest was a Seaweed pioneer. We will meet her later tonight. Prize-winning startup, the Nordland company, came in contact with us. They wanted to look for new possibilities for developing seaweed products from our fresh and wild water up there. As the Asian cuisine is largely based on seaweed, and since we need to feed the world with more sustainable food, we thought that this was a really interesting field to be a part of. Of course, someone at the island said, "Seaweed? We don't even give it to the cows anymore." Some also said, Yes, that's a fantastic idea. 1 year later, they are working with establishing a firm in Træna, creating new workplaces and collaborating with the local fishermen, using the old fish factory for a new purpose. With their work, they're activating a whole little society, and at the same time, making us know that the rest of the world is interested in something we didn't even know we had. Being able to combine the creative forces coming from outside of Træna with our own local competences, history, tradition, and resources is the main learning here. We can build strong relations overseas and through decades, across disciplines and cultures, if we dare to let people in. What will happen next? Well, urbanization will most likely continue, and some small places will continue to depopulate. But I think all societies, big or small, has the potential to sustain if they dare to let people in, say yes, and collaborate with the outsiders. Thank you.